Welcome everybody to this fireside chat with Minister Skylakakis. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rickard Skofias and I am the chairman of Hellenic Hydrocarbons and Energy Resources Management Company, the company that has been entrusted to develop and drive a number of the plans and projects that Minister is standing behind. So I will welcome you to the Greek pavilion. It's now the second time that I have the opportunity to participate in the Greek pavilion at COP, and I would be remiss if I don't take the chance to thank the team for, again, having done a fantastic job in setting this up. So today's conversation, energy transition initiatives with global impact. So before I hand over to the Minister and start asking what I hope to be challenging questions, a quick step back. In the last decade, Greece has emerged as one of the most important actors on the European energy map. Dating back almost 10 years, the country started playing a protagonist role on the southern gas corridor, very timely as we are today sitting in Baku to bring Caspian gas into European markets. And Greece has since been involved in a number of transnational energy projects, the Saudi-Greek interconnector, the Great Sea interconnector, and in parallel to all this have also made some extraordinary strides to accelerate the deployment of renewables and to increase the renewable share in the energy mix. Wind and solar, of course, it's a country that has some of the best conditions in Europe, if not globally. And when I say extraordinary, I don't really just throw around hyperbole, but these are some fantastic achievements. So let me give you what it means in real terms. For example, the first year of this year, the first part of this year marked a milestone in that renewable energy sources contributed 60% to the Greek energy mix. And at some points, I know this, the renewable generation capacity was equivalent to the total consumption of the country. So fantastic achievements. We have then built on this. Last year, almost on the day, in COP in Dubai, we launched the national program for offshore wind. And today we can add to this a national program for CCUS, carbon capture and storage. And tomorrow we will have the opportunity to dive into both the wind and the CCS conversation in depth with our CEO of HEREMA, Aristofanis Stefatos, who is also here and who has been an architect behind a number of these projects. But in conclusion, the picture that emerges, I think it's fair to say, is a country that has really confronted the energy challenge heads on and has advanced very, very rapidly in alignment with what has been laid down in the master plan, the National Energy and Climate Plan. So this takes us up to today, to the COP that has been referred to as the money COP. And of course, there is a question that has long eluded the international community. How do we fund the transition? And how do we, the countries that for 100 years have been benefiting from a carbon-based economy to advance a lot of economic growth today, contribute to equitable transition also for other nations who are now looking at accelerating their growth? So immensely complex question of national economics, international economics, and energy all entwined, which is why we have the perfect panel participant today to address that complexity. Since 2023, as you know, Minister Skylakakis serves as Greece's Minister for Energy and Environment and has been instrumental in driving a number of these plans that are now materializing and becoming a reality. But prior to his current role, he was the Minister of Finance and has also served in a number of international positions, including as a member of the European Parliament. So it's hard to think of somebody who can bring this complexity together in a better way. So let me go to the very core. Last year, a lot of the conversation in COP was how do we maximize the inclusion of green energy. Today, the conversation is about financing. So what is your perspective on this, Minister? How do we finance it?
Well, green energy now is definitely competitive, and it's absolutely competitive when you are in the beginning of a transition. We have to understand that in a country, at the country level, the transition is not a straight line. In the beginning of the transition, green energy has extreme benefits. As you move forward, you get more impact by the stochastic nature of green energy. So the cost of running a system that has only an electrical system that has only green energy increases, and the complexity of building that system increases as well, because you have to add storage and interconnections. At the beginning, you don't have to add storage for the very simple reason that you just implement investments that cover energy demand that was already covered by thermal, usually. Essentially, you don't need subsidies or big additional investments for if you start having solar panels in a place that is at the beginning. You don't need subsidies if you implement a wind in a place that is at the beginning. The investments pay for themselves, and they are lucrative. What is the problem? The real problem is that, and that's a problem that Greece realized back in 2010 when we had the Greek crisis and we lost investment grade. The real problem is that if you don't have investment grade, people don't come to do good investments because they don't have confidence in the country. And that's the real problem that we have in terms of the green transition in the next 10 years in all these countries. This is the essence, the core of the problem is lack of confidence. So how do you deal with that? Part of it is better economic policy in these countries. We should not, people should also have responsibility. When we had bad economic policy in Greece, we didn't have confidence in the country. The investments went south. The solution was help, of course, because we are belonging in a family, but the solution was also rebuilding confidence through reforms in the country. So reforms in an investment in a better economy in the countries that do not have investment confidence are a big part of the solution of the climate problem. And at the same time, to facilitate that, I believe that what money the West or the global West, let's say, which is not West, but it's just more advanced countries in terms of economic confidence, should do is have matching funds for those that achieve better results in terms of economic confidence, especially in terms of the climate policies, so in terms of renewables. That sounds like a bit of what was our own experience back in 2010, 2020, but it can be a lot easier because it's an absolutely win-win situation. When you do that, everybody wins. the global environment wins. I won't say the planet, because the planet will survive whatever we do. It's for ourselves that we have to do the climate policy. It's not the planet that's going to suffer. We're going to suffer from lack of climate policy. So it's the global human community that will gain. It's the countries that are less advanced in climate policies that we gain a lot, and it's also Western, global Western or global North or whatever investors that will also be able to instead of searching for paper investments in the regions that they know very well, they can do real investments with real effects and very real positive economic returns in other places in the world.
Let me pick up on a point you mentioned, because I think that in terms of the evolution of investor confidence in Greece, at least, we have seen has risen dramatically over the last 10 years. But you made a very interesting point about also along the development curve of the renewables, that in the beginning it's a little bit easier.
No, it's not a little bit easier. It's a hell of a lot easier. I'm telling you that because we are now in the middle and it's getting a hell of a lot more difficult.
I don't think I will quote the French, but point very well taken.
It's hell. It's a place that it's global. They even have it in China.
You point out the interconnectivity, and that this is something that it seems to me that with this challenge being presented on the horizon, it's something that we are aware of that we need to get to. Now, I know that there are already a number of initiatives in place in terms of interconnectivity, which is of course also with the generation capacity that Greece has, will actually help other countries in the neighborhood and in the near region to help green their energy mix. Two questions, if I may. How do you see the status at the moment of these interconnectivity challenges and programs? But also, this is a region that has its fair share of geopolitical and political complexities. How will we overcome and collaborate on those?
Well, we are already doing that, and we are implementing it. We are implementing the Great Sea Interconnector, which I helped facilitate a very difficult moment in the negotiations for that a few months ago, and we are now moving forward with that. We have implemented doubling of interconnection with Bulgaria, and we are now doubling again. We are doing that with Italy. We are doing a very innovative interconnection with North Africa, Egypt, which is going to do something unique. It will transfer a different weather, a different wind from Egypt, because it's going to be 75% wind, to Greece. When you go and look at a map of the wind energy, you get something like a very bad cardio that goes like that. And it varies a bit during seasons, but it's absolutely stochastic. Now, if you compare with that diagram, for example, of Greece with Germany, you will find out that it is it's like that, but it's a different. So they are absolutely complementary. So to connect our region with Europe, we complement and solve a big part of the problem of the stochastic part of the renewables. Instead of storing, you get from a different place. The same stands for Egypt. We are now doing the studies, but probably we will find a much more complementary wind that will create quality renewable energy. When you go over 50%, it's not quantity that matters, it's quality. Thus, you need more grids to get different weathers to be connected. You need more storage, obviously, and that makes the energy a lot more expensive. But when you start, all these don't exist, and you have solars that you can buy with 20 cents per megawatt hour, essentially. There's nothing that produces with 20 cents of megawatt hours nowhere in the world with any technology, even in Saudi Arabia, with petrol produced with a cost of, I don't know, $5 per production cost. Even there, without CO2, you cannot compete with solar at the beginning. Wind is a bit more expensive, but it's a long-term asset that when you go further in the curve, it becomes absolutely crucial, and it's also going down very fast. So, and it has gone down very fast. So, when you start, you should close your eyes and invest. When you start, you should close with renewables in an electric system. As things are today, you should close your eyes and invest. The question is, will they pay me the money? Can I get the money out of the country? These are the questions, the only questions that matter.
You're describing a very fascinating symbiosis between here of how the systems interact. So let me then pick up on another symbiosis, sort of the symbiosis in the broader national economic system. We know that you have been very, very strong driver for the deployment of the wind program, but also because that the wind development can also create a lot of bigger, broader supply chain opportunities for Greece as a hub. How do you see this? We discussed this briefly last year. A year later, how does this?
Well, when you look at creating a big industry in terms of producing electricity, you also have to look into whether you can take some part of this and produce it in your own country. And this is part of the industrial policy, let's say, aspect of renewables. Now, Europe did not have a good experience in terms of industrial policy with renewables. It thought that it would corner the world market in photovoltaics and in wind turbines. That didn't happen, as we all know. So the experience is a bit mixed when you look at whether you can do that in a specific country or region in a very globalized world. But our world, unfortunately, is becoming less globalized in some aspects. We have the danger of trade wars, and that means that global players also look into opportunities to produce outside their own base and into the consumers' regions. We have some interest in that aspect for real investments. So I believe a lot of interest, to be more exact, to enter this market after we have paid the subsidies to create it. Long after that, we have paid very high subsidies, I would say extremely high subsidies, very early on, and we keep paying them because they last for 20 years. And in terms of industrial policy, we got a net zero. which is not as nice when it comes for industrial policy as it is for climate policy. And what we now have is a renewed interest. But do you know what's the base of this renewed interest? Investment confidence. That's the base. If you don't have investment confidence, you go nowhere.
You're depicting a picture where there is a globalized pull in one direction, but then of course there is a localized pull in some directions, because in some cases vicinity matters, and it makes me immediately think of the carbon sequestration, where of course the vicinity to the emission points actually do matter, even though we're now looking at broadening that out. I recall a report a couple of years ago which stated very, very clearly we will not achieve the transition targets without CCS and carbon capture. So I know that you have also been driving this in Greece, and as we will have the opportunity to discuss more in detail tomorrow. But there still seems to be international opportunities here. I know that recently you were in Egypt, where you also looked at establishing multilateral cooperation on CCS. I believe you conducted an MOU with Minister Badawi.
We agreed on that, and we will have the MOU in February.
You made some challenging points about European policy in terms of how we develop and how we keep maintaining competitiveness. And of course the Draghi report that came out was pretty stark in this as well. I understand that some of these opportunities now that we also see multilateral between, for example, Greece and Egypt on CCS will also require some changes on European level?
Yes, they will require, and I think that we're going to have these changes, and we are talking with the Commission about that. But it's not just the Commission. If you go to European policies, to European climate policies, what the real problem that you have is that we have entered the era of the new climate. We don't have a climate crisis. We have a new climate, for which we have two real difficulties. We have not adapted to that climate, or our infrastructure is blind in terms of that climate, because we have built our infrastructure saying that we built infrastructure that it can last for 50 years, usually, or some very critical infrastructure for 100-year events. Now in Greece, we had 1,000-year events or 300-year events coming in a month, 2 in a row. We are in a new climate. So in this new climate will create huge fiscal challenges because we have not adapted to that. These fiscal challenges will be local. Being local, since all politics are local, they are going to be financed first when they occur. If there's a catastrophe, you are not going to subsidize an electric car and say that we don't have money to respond to a catastrophe like Valencia or like Daniel. So the real difficulty is that we have to finance in Europe the most ambitious climate policy, which also has the difficulty that it has multiple targets, and these multiple targets are not related always to the one target that matters, which is the CO2 target. And we will also have to finance adaptation, and we have done nothing in terms of putting budgets, long-term budgets for adaptation to the new climate. And the new climate will be here for the next 30 to 40 years, and things will get worse before they get better for the next 30 to 40 years. This is because of the cumulative nature of CO2 emissions, and because even if we start reducing emissions, we're going to compare these reduced emissions yearly with the emissions that the global economy had in 930. 100 years ago, at the time of the Great Depression. Tell you what, these emissions came from a hugely smaller economy. So to start really impacting the climate, it will take us decades. And we have another 2 billion people that will be added in the next 20, 30 years in the world. And the increase of the global economy happening at the same moment. So what I'm describing is a reality where numbers don't add up. Now, my mind works with numbers, and when I see numbers that don't add up, I have a natural instinct to come out and say it. Very bad for politics, that habit. Very bad for politics, but I can't help it. And these numbers don't add up. So what do we have to do? First, we have to get more efficient. That means that we have to reduce and make redundant of the targets that are not absolutely connected with the main target of CO2. Let's start with that, and we'll see what other things we can do.
It's you point out that the world is not today what it was in 1930, and it brings me to think also of the technological development that we've had since. And you mentioned also the efficiency here. I saw some statistics recently that shocked me. I was introduced to a gentleman, is the CEO of a company called Red Badger, and they are working with reprogramming data centers. And this has a big sustainability impact. I learned, I did not understand this myself. This is not an area of expertise. But I was told that 21% of all electricity in Ireland today is consumed by data centers. If you can develop new coding, so not huge investments, but simply the brain, mind working, to actually find more efficient ways of coding how this works, you can decrease this by up to 50% in one go, which sort of leads me into the innovation space. Greece has a lot of highly educated, a big demography of young, educated people. You were talking about investor confidence.
And a big demography that we have sent abroad during the crisis.
So how do we bring them back?
Get back. We are getting them back. The way to get them back is to have high quality investments in the country. High quality international investors like Master that was here a few minutes ago are extremely important. And what we have to do is convey the message that Greece is a country that will be investment friendly for the foreseeable future, and a country that sees international investment as an integral part of its economic future, and provide for the international investors two things. One is cheap green energy, which is a very good thing to have. And the second is an improving in terms of continual reforms, governmental and bureaucratic structure. So we need to keep on reforming on our state. No state in the world today is equipped for the world, not this world that we have, but the world 30 years ago. No state is ready or is efficient enough in handling the realities of the world today. So increasing the efficiency of the state is absolutely necessary, together with cheap energy and, of course, people, but that's another story that I won't enter into, for our future as a country and for this transition.
So, Minister, I will seize on this in my concluding question to you. When we had a similar conversation last year in Dubai, you said something that has stayed with me ever since. You said, we have solved the climate crisis, technically speaking. We just haven't been able to solve it politically. And I think this is very much what you're pointing to. So as we are sitting here today in Dubai, Azerbaijan, what are your hopes? What are your expectations?
I hope that I will make worse predictions in the years to come.
Minister, always a great pleasure. So a big thank to the Minister for your time today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.